Right now at 10, Kilauea unleashed in Puna.
Guarantee it's going to change people's lives.
The spattering eruptions in Leilani Estates are blocking roads, igniting fires, and destroying homes.
Add to that a 6.9 earthquake south of the volcano felt as far as Oahu.
The whole bed was just shaking. It scared me.
This is Pohiki Road. Now.
And then there's the toxic gas shooting from cracks in the earth, which are multiplying.
Isn't it great that we just ride it out?
Tonight, county leaders meet with anxious families preparing for a natural disaster that may just be getting started.
In high definition, from KGMB and KHNL, this is your source for breaking news. Hawaii News Now at 10.
The new Kilauea eruption continues with no end in sight. This aerial video from the Hawaii National Guard shows several of the new fissures that opened today in Leilani Estates.
Some of them are several hundred yards long. The USGS has counted at least 6 vents spewing lava off and on since the first one opened up yesterday afternoon. On top of all that, today, Hawaii's strongest earthquake in 43 years. A 6.9 Temblor followed by this column of ash at the Pu'u'o'o crater today.
The quake prompted the complete closure of the Hawaii Volcanoes National Park.
Oh my God. Woo! Earthquake.
All right, folks, I'm in front overlook. I'm going to need you to come back.
Visitors were stunned after feeling the quake at the Jagger Museum overlook. It didn't take long for park officials to clear the crowd and send them back down the mountain.
And here's what the quake looked like down in Hilo. It struck at 12:33 this afternoon on the south flank of Kilauea and was felt all the way on Oahu. But people on the east side of the Big Island got the biggest jolt.
And all of a sudden, everything just started shaking. The shelves, all the pictures are falling off the shelves. This was by far the strongest earthquake that I've ever experienced living here in Hilo. So I was definitely very scared, and more scared for my grandma's safety.
Experts say today's 6.9 was the strongest earthquake in Hawaii since 1975. So far, the county reported minor damage and at least 5 landslides on the Hamakua coast. There have also been hundreds of smaller quakes today.
The Pacific Tsunami Warning Center says the quake generated small tsunami waves. This video shows scary moments at Honolulu Beach Park when the ocean started receding. There were sea level changes of about 8 inches in Hilo and more than a foot in Kapoho, but thankfully no statewide tsunami.
And here's new video from 4 Miles, also known as Carl Smith Beach Park in Keaukaha. You can see the ripples in the water from the localized tsunami waves. No reports of any damage, but it sure did get people's attention.
Now to our team coverage. We have several reporters live on the Big Island tonight tracking the evacuations, the county response, and a big community meeting this evening.
Experts confirmed a chemical change in the magma. What we're seeing tonight is the fresher, gassier lava.
Geologists have been warning that this would speed up the flows. Our Mileka Lincoln has an incredible vantage point tonight near one of those outbreaks. Mileka?
Aloha Keahi, Steph. What we have seen speed up certainly is how quickly the situation out here on the scene unfolds and changes. We've been out here for several hours now as invited guests of private property owners who have a lot near Puna Geothermal Venture just outside of Leni Puna Gardens, and their front yard is this incredible panoramic view of 4 of the most active of the 22 fissures that have broken out here along the lower East Rift Zone. We have heard the booming explosions of gas vents opening up near an extraordinarily dynamic fissure 19 that has sent a fountain of lava spewing upwards about 500 feet throughout the day consistently today.
20-year-old Jessica Tilton is undergoing physical and occupational therapy here at the Queens Medical Center for the injuries she suffered while on the Lava Ocean tour.
I kept screaming like my leg because my leg hurt really bad.
From her hospital bed, Jessica talked about the fear she felt when molten rock exploded and lava rock rained down on the tour boat she was riding off the Big Island 2 weeks ago.
I remember the captain saying, is anyone hurt? And then my dad was yelling, like, my daughter is hurt.
Rob Tilton says a glowing lava rock about 2 feet in diameter shot in through the side of the Lava Ocean Tour's boat and struck his daughter.
You can see on pictures on the side of the boat that there's a dip in the railing, and that's where the rock hit that. And it kind of landed in her seat. I think it hit her and kind of pushed her aside. That's why she doesn't have burns on her.
He says the rock shattered his daughter's thigh bone.
I had emergency surgery the first day on my femur. They put a metal rod in it, which I'll have for the rest of my life. My pelvis is broken in multiple spots.
Another lava rock pierced the roof. 22 other people were injured. Lava Ocean Tours was permitted to take people within 165 feet of the coastline, but Jessica remembers being worried that boat captain Shane Turpin was getting them too close.
He told us that, and he's traveling next to that, so to me it's like you're right next to the lava, you know, if not on top of it, and that really scared me.
Of those that had permits, he was the only one remotely this close. The others were very concerned and would not have been in there.
Turpin told Hawaii News Now because of an investigation, he can't comment about the incident, but he wishes Jessica a speedy recovery.
I just keep thinking in my mind every day that, you know, I can get through this and I'll be able to go back to school eventually, and you just got to go through the pain right now to get there.
Jim Mendoza, Hawaii News Now.
There are about 300 people living in shelters right now. Meanwhile, another part of the housing crisis is the hidden homeless. Like other evacuees, longtime Kapoho resident Janice Garamoni and her 17-year-old son Ravi have been forced to move, an upheaval in their lives which has been as unpredictable as the lava flow. Ravi has a rare medical condition that leaves him immobile, so he needs constant care. He also has a brittle bone disease and has suffered hundreds of fractures. After fleeing their Kapoho home because of the approaching lava, they had to evacuate the place they were staying at in Pahoa because the poor air quality made Ravi's condition worse.
The level of moving with the disability issues is just beyond.
The Garamonis are living for free in this Hawaiian Paradise Park vacation rental, but Janice doesn't know how she'll find $9,000 to pay for the next 6 months of rent, and she fears the worst for her treasured home of 40 years.
I didn't have a lot of time to kind of have my own breakdown, but that happened when I went to my home yesterday and thought I may never come back. I'm gonna take what I can.
Ravi has 9 caregivers. Some have evacuated their own homes. But through it all, they say Ravi is an inspiration because of his lighthearted spirit.
There's been a lot of blessings, a lot of magic, a lot of angels that have come through to, you know, bless everybody up.
Repeat, the U.S. Pacific Command has detected a missile threat to Hawaii.
The words, "This is not a drill," burned into our phones.
People literally ran to find cover, hiding in basements, huddling in closets. One family climbed into a sewer hole.
We were obviously very scared. We have 2 little girls.
My wife was in tears and didn't know what to do.
So I'm just looking around thinking like where do we go?
All this fear for a false alarm. Confirmation trickled out on social media, followed by an official correction and a stunning revelation.
An employee pushed the wrong button. It came down to a person pushing the wrong button.
That was not funny at all. The guy had one job, right, and he messed up.
Now the FCC is vowing a full investigation, and state lawmakers are demanding answers.
I've spoken with some House colleagues this morning, and they are just as outraged.
Tonight, in-depth team coverage on the missile alert mistake.
It is a defining moment for the Ige administration. The governor has apologized for the initial mistake and the slow response to ease the fear.
Leaders say the false alarm was caused by a longtime employee at the state's emergency management agency.
Again, it's a human error. There is a screen that says, are you sure you want to do this? Okay, again, that's already in place. Now, we had one person, human error, and that thing was pushed anyway.
We have live team coverage tonight. Our JoBeth DeVera is in Waikiki. Ben Gutierrez is at the state's Emergency Management Center.
But we begin with Lisa Kubota and the timeline on this monumental mistake.
Well, there's a variety of problems. System-wide failure as far as the an unannounced, unplanned drill that occurred during transition time between shifts, very vulnerable time. People weren't ready.
Employee 1, as the state investigation identifies him, says he had just logged onto his computer on Saturday, January 13th at the Hawaii Emergency Management Agency when the phone rang.
I was supposed to be on speakerphone, but someone picked up the receiver, and the first part of the message, exercise, was not heard.
What he did hear instead was not part of any language he heard before during an exercise.
The message I heard was that this is not a drill, and I did not hear exercise in the message at all.
He pushed the proverbial button, an option on his computer screen sending out the alert to Hawaii cell phones and broadcasters that a ballistic missile was on the way.
I was 100% sure that it was real. I did what I was trained to do, and based on the information I heard.
Employee 1 says he realizes the alert caused panic across the state, but says he thought he was doing the right thing, trying to give people time to find shelter.
No, we weren't ready. And we could have been trained more, and the documentation could have been better, and the system, the software could have been better. A lot of things played into it, and it was just a big failure of the system.
From Hawaii News Now, this is a breaking news special report.
And good evening, I'm Sean Ching. Thank you for joining us for this Hawaii News Now special report on the historic flooding on Kauai. Here's the very latest information. Evacuation and relief efforts continue today in communities that were devastated by the severe weather. Kauai Mayor Bernard Carvalho says it's still too early to estimate the extent of the devastation, but early eyewitness accounts put the number of homes and businesses that have sustained serious damage or have been destroyed in the dozens. As for rescues, more than 340 people have been either boated out or airlifted out of hard-hit areas like Haena and Wainiha. Officials have warned evacuees that they still don't know when they will be able to return to their homes. Our Kiahi Tucker is on the ground in Hanalei and filed this report a short time ago.
We made it to the Hanalei Pier, and that's about the only thing recognizable from 3 days ago. This river you see behind me wasn't here before this storm, and now it seems quite substantial. The water cut a path, if you look upstream there, through the neighborhood. The actual Hanalei River is several hundred yards in that direction on the other side of Black Pot Beach. The park there that's become a central focus of the Hanalei community for so many decades and is now totally off limits unless you're somehow able to get through the river and over the rubble. Let's walk it around this way. Hanalei Beach is scarred with deep gouges where the runoff cut through the sand, and if you look all the way down toward the next beach park, you see the trucks, the military trucks on the beach. That's where they're launching the boats to deliver relief supplies to Haena and Wainiha, those communities cut off by multiple landslides. Volunteers coming and going. They made a makeshift ramp there. Their lifeguards helping to push the boats down past the sand, Zodiacs, and it's neighbors helping neighbors. Take a look this way. We're getting an up-close look at some of the damage of these beachfront homes that are uninhabited right now. We're going to walk through to just the edge of the yard here. You can see where the water came through and destroyed the lawn, went all the way through the home, and Down that direction, those homes are collapsed, destroyed. These are $10 million plus homes. Beachfront in Hanalei, at least 2 or 3 of them here are being used for vacation rentals. There is a resident, I think 3 homes down, that also suffered major damage after just doing a renovation project there. But this area is damaged and changed, perhaps permanently, perhaps for quite some time. It's going to be interesting to see how the county decides to rebuild and reshape this area after such an historic flood and so much extensive damage. We'll be live at 5 and 6 here at the Hanalei Pier with more damage, more video, new information from the people conducting the disaster response on the North Shore. I'm Keahi Tucker in Hanalei, Hawaii News Now.
All right, thank you very much, Keahi. And amid the devastation, some of which you saw there from Keahi, there was also an incredible story of survival on Kauai to tell you about. A group of more than 20 backpackers were trapped during the raging floods and landslides on an isolated area along the Napali coast. Jim Mendoza has that story.
Feel the weather shift very dramatically.
What was supposed to be a fun gathering of friends turned into an adrenaline-pumping fight for life.
I went out to the beach, I looked out to the ocean. There's thunder and lightning all across the ocean and all down the cliffs.
Many in the hiking group had already been in Kalalau Valley for several days and had plenty of gear, but they weren't prepared for what they would soon endure, 36 hours of torrential rain and lightning.
And it dumped all night. A bunch of us ended up, different people's tents ended up in puddles.
Soaked and stranded, some in the group, like Liana Le'auli'i from the Big Island, decided they needed to get out immediately, hiking through raging streams and washed out trails.
Crazy, right? And we had rain coming down on us at this diagonal, pelting rain, and it just ran down my legs and filled into my socks. My whole boots were just puddles, these heavy puddles, trudging up this steep hill of mud.
After spending the night on a picnic table at a hunting shelter, Liana's group finally got to the trailhead, and it was an eerie sight.
Looking around the beach park, nobody's there. And we're something's what happened while we were in the trail? What's going on? It was this weird feeling apocalyptic moment.
They hiked to Wainiha Colony Resort. Some decided to keep trekking to Hanalei, hiking over landslides and under downed power lines. Others waited and were eventually boated out.
About, I think, 10 people, 8 to 10 people in our group continued to hike from Hahena all the way to Hanalei, over the landslides, ducking under live wires, forging rivers.
After the group was finally back together, they swapped stories. Some had hiked about 20 miles in 2 days. Liana said the gravity of the situation finally hit home.
There's a lot of internal themes there that were being processed through that whole journey of faith and teamwork.
Jim Mendoza, Hawaii News Now.
And our Ashley Nagaoka has spent the last few days on Kauai covering the disaster. She filed this damage report this morning on Sunrise.
As we are on Veke Road, just to give you an idea where we are, this used to be the road that led to the pier. The pier would be to the left off there. You can see that the trees have taken down the power lines. The road completely fallen through. There's now water and sand. Where those people over there, the canoe clubs are back there. Let's show you some of the homes in the area. You can see the erosion taking down driveways. In this driveway right here, we have the Jeep that is submerged underwater. The foundation of the homes unstable, windows cracked, trees down. We'll go this way to the other part of Veke Road, and you can see it is impassable because both sides of the road have fallen in.
Sirens sounding for 3 minutes on Oahu about an hour ago as a warning that Hurricane Lane is on the way.
Right now, about 350 people are already staying in the 20 open shelters on Oahu.
And while the Big Island and Maui are doing their best to cope with the flooding and thunderstorms hitting them,
we have live team coverage from across the state tonight as Lane makes its presence known.
That's right. There are already reports of up to 20 inches of rain.
Our team of reporters are across the island chain tonight, covering the emergency as neighborhoods are getting drenched by the storm.
And starting our coverage tonight is Jennifer Robbins with the very latest forecast. Jen.
And Sean, we're watching that right front quadrant, the very
Police and firefighters raced down to this remote community just before 3 this afternoon. The water has receded now, but you can still see the vehicles and other debris carried down by the raging Honokohau stream. The wall of water left behind a trail of destruction, catching even longtime residents off guard.
And the sad thing is that it didn't seem like it was raining that hard here for the water to be this high, but apparently up in the mountains it must have been pouring pretty hard.
Ke'ahi Mahialani, this is an incredible story of survival and a good Samaritan springing into action to help save a complete stranger. That good Samaritan works here as an instructor at Extreme Parasail at Kewalo Basin, and eyewitnesses tell us he didn't think twice when he jumped into the water to help untangle the pilot before first responders could even get to him. Now, here is what we know so far. The pilot is a 47-year-old male and had just taken off from the Honolulu Airport Reef runway. Eyewitnesses who were on a parasailing tour at the time tell us the plane was so close to them, they saw everything unfold right before their eyes. An instructor who was also on board at the time of the crash jumped into the water to help untangle the injured pilot. Eyewitnesses say they saw 2 planes initially go up and about 5 minutes later saw just one coming down.
We heard this loud boom, and then we saw the pilot eject from the plane, and then we see his parachute come out, and then the plane went straight into the water. It basically nosedived into the water.
When I got in the water, I was asking him, I was like, "Are you okay?" And he's like, "Yeah, my back hurts a little bit from the compression." And he had a little bit of blood coming in. I think it might have been the impact, because he was going pretty fast.
A military spokesman tells us the pilot was a civilian contractor and was flying a British-made Hawker Hunter aircraft. The pilot was participating in the Sentry Aloha military exercises. Witnesses tell us there is a lot of fuel in the water right now, but very little debris. No word yet on wreckage salvage operations. Reporting from Kewalo Basin, Chelsea Davis, Hawaii News Now.
Two years ago, the Fed sent out target letters to then Police Chief Louis Kealoha and a handful of officers. All were indicted months later. Now, the first deputy in the prosecutor's office has received a subject letter from the feds indicating more indictments could be coming for high-level law enforcement.
Chasit Sapolu, the Honolulu prosecuting attorney's first deputy, has testified many times before the federal grand jury investigating his boss, Prosecutor Keith Kaneshiro. And now sources say he has received a subject letter. A subject letter means the U.S. Attorney's Office believes he has engaged in suspicious and unethical conduct, but wants to do more investigating.
We may not have enough evidence to charge you with, but we're on our way.
Ken Lawson of the University of Hawaii Law School says it is one level below a target letter, but a subject letter should not be taken lightly.
It scares the bejesus out of people, right? It's like, any day now they could be knocking on my door. It puts the fear in people. I could be going away to prison.
This is the first official notification that the scandal that resulted in criminal charges against 4 Honolulu police officers, ex-police chief Louis Kealoha, and his wife, former deputy prosecutor Catherine Kealoha, has now spilled over to Mrs. Kealoha's former office and colleagues.
I can guarantee you that no one in this system, judiciary, prosecutors, defense lawyers, want to see stuff like this.
So why are the feds interested in First Deputy Chasit Sapolu? It could be a number of things. Our cameras caught Sapolu and another high-ranking deputy prosecutor, Jan Futa, in a heated discussion in the hallway of Circuit Court last year. The two were running a state-level grand jury, which was convened to justify the fixing of a speeding ticket for Mrs. Kealoha's electrician. The FBI appears to be questioning the authenticity of these proceedings. Another focus of the feds could concern the controversial safe house for domestic violence victims that the prosecutor's office obtained through a questionable land deal.
The people in the public lose total confidence in an office that's supposed to prosecute crime. That's what they're supposed to do, not commit crimes. So it's very, very sad.
When Louis Kealoha got his target letter in December of 2016, he immediately placed himself on administrative leave. The police officers who also got letters that day were put on desk duty. We asked the prosecutor's office late this afternoon if the subject letter would change Chassid Sapolu's status, and we asked if anyone else in the prosecutor's office, including Keith Kaneshiro, got a letter from the Department of Justice. We have not heard back. I'm Lynn Kawano, Hawaii News Now.
Tonight at 5, honoring the life and legacy of Hawaii's Ambassador of Aloha.
I hope I succeeded in sharing a little bit of Hawaii with all of you.
Former Senator Daniel Akaka dies at the age of 93. We look back at his decades of service on Capitol Hill.
You won't find someone like him anymore.
And his dedication to Ohana.
After all of these things and accomplishments, doesn't it come down to family?
Tonight, we remember Daniel Akaka, the Aloha statesman.
The world really needs aloha, because aloha is a power that brings people together.
Retired Senator Daniel Akaka died at about 5 this morning of organ failure. He was 93 years old.
He was the first native Hawaiian to be elected to Congress and prided himself on bringing the warm spirit of aloha to the sometimes cold halls of our nation's capital. Mahale Lonnie Richardson joins us now with a special look back on his extraordinary life. Mahale?
Thanks, Sean and Sif. It's really hard to imagine that the senator is gone. Dan Akaka was proud of his reputation as an ambassador of Aloha, and he lived a life true to that spirit.
Daniel Kahikina Akaka was born in Po'oa in 1924. After graduating from Kamehameha School for Boys, he served in World War II in the Pacific. His brother Abraham was respected pastor of Kawaiahao Church, and Daniel was the choir director. That's where he met his wife, Millie Chong. After being a teacher and principal, he was working for Governor George Ariyoshi when he won a seat in Congress in 1976. 13 years later, he was appointed to the Senate upon the death of Spark Matsunaga. He held that seat for 23 years.
Because of my upbringing, I felt my life was to devote to service. And this was service to our country and service to Hawaii. I do.
He worked closely with Hawaii Senior Senator Daniel Inouye, the two making up the most senior delegation in the U.S. Senate, his highest position as chair of the Veterans Affairs Committee. But Akaka worked quietly, more workhorse than showhorse, which some criticized, but he always spoke of the power of aloha. In later years, Millie was a regular fixture in his office.
He told me, no, you have to come up and be with me and take care of me. I said, okay. So I'm up here to make sure that he has his lunch and do other things around here.
His only close call politically was a challenge by Congressman Ed Case, who defied party leaders by challenging Akaka in the 2006 primary. Case offended many by questioning whether Akaka was too old to be effective. Akaka's biggest disappointment was his so-called Akaka Bill, giving federal recognition to Native Hawaiians, which never passed the Senate. One of his greatest legislative achievements, the 1993 Apology Bill, where the U.S. apologized for the overthrow of the monarchy. He retired in 2013, but his family joked he was even more busy in retirement. He's survived by 5 children, 15 grandchildren, and 19 great-grandchildren. When we spoke with him last year, Akaka maintained his trademark motto.
The world really needs aloha, because aloha is a power that brings people together.
Daniel Akaka, recognized as an ambassador of aloha for his humility, faith, service, and skill with the song.
There are rainbows, that's all of you.